Hello and welcome to Straight from the Training Ground, the show where everything always goes as planned. This is Jay, along with my partner in crime here, Razmando. Raz, this week we're going to talk about the financial obstacles that are facing kids and families in youth soccer, namely club soccer in our country. But before we get to that, what have you been up to? How's things been going?
Things have been going well. We've had a couple of friendlies for our U18 team. Working on that. Also ordered some uniform. I don't know whether I mentioned that last time. Ordered a new uniform.
Can I purchase one?
U23 team mainly. A lot of tartan involved in this uniform. It's pretty sweet. You know,
I can only imagine. Yeah,
you imagine, right? No kilts though. And then we're also been looking at some tournaments to enter for our U18s. I'm just trying to fill out the spring season and looking for some activities for them, college showcases, tournaments, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that, some of the things we've uncovered and some of our experience trying to enter these competitions.
Yes, and with that being said, I'm just glad that we're all moving outside now, at least, back outside. The weather's getting a little bit better every day, so clubs starting up outside and all that good stuff, so just glad to be back outside. Hopefully the weather continues to get better, but it's always a lot better when we're outside. This week, Ryan, we wanted to approach the subject we've talked about a little bit before, but our guest this week has a very insightful idea that can't wait to share with everyone. Very creative idea on how to, come up with other ways, avenues for kids in rougher areas that don't have the financial means to play club soccer in Cincinnati. So we'll share that interview with you on this episode. Can't wait for that. But along those lines, Ryan, as you and I know, we've talked about it before, so not to beat a dead horse, but club soccer, very pricey in our country. Some places more so than others and all those kinds of things. But we want to talk about the obstacles facing, not just the kids and the families, but as you mentioned, before we start our broadcast today, even the coaches, for yourself and myself and people, as you're looking to enter leagues and enter your team into a tournament, things just continue to get more expensive for families to continue to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just recently had my U18 group. I'm looking for, as I mentioned, I'm looking for tournaments to enter in the spring. I've got a couple more I'm trying to nail down, and then I'm looking at the price of these tournaments, and it's $1,000, $1,200, $1,400 to enter a tournament. So I'm thinking about that, and usually what we do, we split that per player, and say you're interested, you're in or out, here's the cost. It's about $100 or so per tournament. And the more I think about that, I think just how much more expensive that is from back in the UK and back in Europe, where I'm from, where you really didn't pay much at all, more than $100 a year equivalent, or $150 equivalent a year to play. But here, every time you play in a tournament, because it seems to be tournaments are the big thing, obviously, that you're coughing up $100. So the amount of money that you pay to play in these events, whether it's a college showcase, whether it's a tournament, it's extortionate. And then not to mention the fact that why are we playing in tournaments anyway when you're playing 2 games in one day, potentially 4 games in 2 days, which is actually contrary to U.S. soccer guidelines about how many times you should play in a small time period. So I don't know why we do that anyway. So, but it's just, these things are just baffling, and it's part of the issue of the whole pay to play issue is that it's so expensive for youth. The better you get in this country, it's so expensive to play the game. Hard to imagine.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I feel like we need a new category on the show because we keep saying this, but the elephant in the room, once again, the fees are just they continue to go up, and as you mentioned with tournaments, I know it was a long time ago, but I mean when I played, it was like $150 or something to play on a club team for the entire season, and that was it, and you go to one tournament at the end of the season maybe, and that was it. And now it's just, as the teams get older, as you mentioned, high school teams and showcases and things like that, as the age group gets older, the tournament fees get more and more expensive. And then the other thing, which you didn't touch on, but, with a showcase, there isn't really usually a championship game. So you're paying even more money, and actually for 3 games without a championship game, which again, I'm not promoting because that would be a 4th game in 2 days, which you and I think are against, but you get my point. I don't want to speak for you, but I think I can speak for you when I say it just feels like it's getting out of control. And I know tournaments are a lot of fun, for families and kids, that it's a very enjoyable experience, when you go out of town and you go to a hotel and you do all those fun things. But as you said, I think there's a fine line between the end product, why are we really there? To get better at soccer, to learn more about it. And when you're, again, getting into all the fees that are involved and the stress, both physically and financially, that it puts on a lot of families.
No, I mean, the problem is it's been monetized at the youth level. There's too many people at all these different levels that have come in and saw and recognized that they can make a buck on it. And it really is. And the real difference is we always look at Europe, we always look at South America, Central America. People do it on a volunteer basis there because they're passionate about the game and they love the game. Not everybody, but the majority of people involved are doing it on a volunteer basis. Associations, people that, even if we have tournaments, run tournaments, but people that run leagues, people that run clubs, and coaches. All those 4 levels in Europe, Central America, South America, predominantly are doing it on a volunteer basis because they're passionate about the game. That's not the case here. People are doing it to make money at those levels. That might be like a weird concept, but that is reality. So the outcome of that is you are minimizing the kind of pipeline. You're shrinking the potential pipeline of people that can have access to the game. As a result of the top level, which is how many world-class players does the U.S. produce? I mean, I'm surprised we produce so many as we do because the pipeline is so much smaller, relatively speaking, these other countries that are far more accessible because the game is far more affordable. I mean, that's my rant over, but it just it's still just perplexing many times when you see the price of these things and how the game is not kind of in the mainstream.
2 things to add for myself real quick. And if you want to elaborate on this, you can. But, in other countries, you can still have a tournament kind of thing set up for your team, but it's more of a cup competition, whether it's a county kind of a competition, a league, a regional, a state, whatever. You could be in an extra competition for your team throughout the season, but it's more like a cup competition where, they sprinkle those games in throughout your season and something like that in addition to your regular league games. It's not 2 or 3 games in 2 days.
You're growing up, it's all about leagues. It's all about league play. You train 2 or 3 times a week, and you play a game on a Saturday or a game on a Sunday. Or if you're on 2 teams, you're playing 1 team. So that's your choice. But cup competitions were one-off game every month or every 6 weeks. There was very, very rarely any tournaments. And I'm talking about tournaments with multi games in one day, 2 or 3 games in one day. And if there were 5-a-side tournaments in the summer to kind of just fundraise. They were not viewed as serious. But flip it to the US, where it seems to be tournaments are more predominant, and league play just isn't that common, or isn't as common as tournaments. I don't understand that. I will say this: where we're based in northern West Virginia, I've always focused on the Pennsylvania West League, the PA West League, which has a nice league at spring and fall, and it has 6 to 8 games. You're involved, and you play 3 home, 3 away. Great format. I was always for that. And I used to face some resistance, from parents and so forth that would hear, why do we go to these tournaments? Want to go to that tournament? And I understand the fun element of it and the camaraderie. But at the end of the day, the league play is really the core of what we were doing and how we were developing players. It was through league play, consistent training to peak for a game, consistent training, peak for a game. And then you get development, develop through that process.
I think it would be interesting, and for anyone out there that watches, maybe, communicate that to us on Twitter, on our website, on YouTube page, things like that. I think it would be interesting to see what most people priority on tournaments, and that's it. I feel like a regular league game was just kind of looked at as secondary.
100%.
You know what I mean? So along those lines, our interview here, which we'll bring to you shortly, brings a great idea from Inner Cincinnati Soccer Academy. It's a brand new academy that just started about a year ago, and we actually got to join them actually on their 1-year anniversary as they head into this spring. It's a great idea, great concept. We're very excited to bring that to you. And before we get to that, Ryan, real quick for our weekly shout out, I would like to give my shout out to the U18 Inner Cincinnati boys team, who we've heard a lot of good things about. They're a pretty good side. They expect to have a good season. And after you hear our interview with them and their founder, I think everyone's going to be pretty excited about what they have going there at Inner Cincinnati.
Hey, this week I'm going to do a big shout out to Inner Cincinnati as well. Okay, I'm going to jump on your bandwagon. Obviously we've already done the interview, and people are going to really enjoy what he's got to say. I just remember one point in the interview where we asked him about the cost of his program, and just as a peek preview, it's about a tenth of the cost of usual club soccer programs, and he's providing that to a group of people that probably wouldn't have access to the game before. Love what he's doing.
Yeah, tremendous. And he actually said they're running out of space. They have so many kids that want to participate. All right, so our interview for the week is Dan Luking, the founder of Inner Cincinnati Soccer Academy. He's done some great things and has a pretty unique unique idea here with club soccer in the area that he is located in Cincinnati. So, Dan, thanks for joining us. We're glad to have you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the invite, and love to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So, Dan, just first of all, just tell us a little bit about your situation with Inner Cincinnati Soccer Academy, kind of what it stands for and what got you started.
So I played in college, got out, and I started coaching from the suburbs. So I coached mostly more affluent schools. And then when I got into teaching, I got a job down in Cincinnati, which is it's kind of a lower income urban school. And eventually, after a while, I ended up taking over the soccer program there. And they were just they were having a hard time drawing kids playing. I think when I took over, we maybe had 13 kids in the whole program, and they lost every game. And you could tell they were beat. It was hard on them. They knew they weren't very good. But when I got there, I actually saw some talent, some real talent. They just hadn't been trained. You could tell they hadn't had the opportunity. And so when you go play 11v11, it's different than playing in the Sunday league, which they were used to. And we just couldn't get the results, and they were frustrated. And so I got to know the kids. And as I talked to them, I just saw, I asked them if they played club or what they did in the spring, and none of them did. They only could afford high school soccer because our school works really well with them. We charge maybe $50 to play. They can't travel. A lot of them would walk to practice, would walk to game, to walk home, to walk to the bus. They just didn't have the rides they needed. And so they just didn't really have the opportunity to go play in the suburbs with all the clubs and the higher level programs. So that kind of just launched me on this kind of journey. And on the way, it just kind of developed into a club team. Essentially, it was for my guys just to give them some chances to play. But then you run up against different rules for the state and high school, and you realize you got to start drawing some more kids outside of your little neighborhood. And so I had enough contacts in the high school. So I just emailed some guys and asked them if they had any kids want to play, and it kind of just has grown from there.
That's fantastic. Yeah,
that's awesome. And Dan, you told me before off the air here a little bit, you started about a year ago, correct? This is about the 1 year anniversary?
Exactly 1 year ago. We launched last spring. We had 3 teams, a 14, a 16, and an 8-year-old team, about 40-ish kids. And we were mildly successful. We didn't have tryouts. I didn't have any tryouts. They just signed up. And if they signed up, they were on the team. We had a couple age groups. We won the league, which is cool for a new team. We got a couple of tournament wins, which is good. The kids loved it. A lot of them, it was their first time ever competing on an actual team and ever winning a trophy. A lot of them, it was their first trophy they ever won, which was a really neat experience. And since then, our club has really just grown. Right now, this spring, we're up to 6 teams and a little over 100 kids.
Fantastic.
So we have a 10, a 12, a 14, a 16, and then an 18 and 19-year-old. And our rosters are just kind of busting at the seams. And even now we're having to turn kids away because we don't have the space right now. So we're trying to figure out all those growing pains.
That's fantastic. So which league do you play in down there?
So the local league, it's called the Cardinal Premier League. It used to be called something else. I forget what it was called before that, but it's just changed. Just a local Cincinnati league. And so we have enough teams around Cincinnati that we can do a local league without having to travel all over and keep the club fees down or the league fees down, which is really helpful for us because one of the big hurdles is definitely cost involved in doing this and trying to keep it as low as possible so our families and our kids can actually afford this experience.
Yeah, I mean, I love hearing that. I mean, making it as accessible as possible for as many people is just such a key thing, even at, your level all the way up to the top level. So can you give me a rough order of what kind of fees you charge typically just for the kids?
So right now we figured out we charge for our older age groups, the 14, 16, 18s or older. We're at $185 a season.
That's $185.
$185, and that includes
fantastic
ref fees, league fees. We do 3 tournaments, so we can fit 3 tournaments. Wow. I didn't realize the cost of youth tournaments until I got into this. It's pretty high. That's the biggest probably expense in our budget. Uniforms come out of that, but our uniforms are mostly done. We've been fortunate that I had some connections with FC Cincinnati. And Nick Haglin, who actually plays for FC Cincinnati, is on our board, and he's a guest trainer for our club. So he comes out quite a bit, and he's really opened some doors for us to get donations. And so we're able to raise enough money that we don't have to charge for uniforms. So that's really helped. And then, of course, all our coaches and our admins are unpaid volunteers. We do this for free, so we don't take any money out of it. And being a teacher, I'm lucky enough to have access to some facilities which the school system or the school district has been nice enough to let us use without charging us. So we've been very fortunate to be able to keep it down to $185. And, we really just try not to say no. If they want to play, we say yes. And for now, we've been fortunate enough to have enough scholarships or people donating that we can accommodate those kids who might not be able to afford the traditional $185.
Yeah. I mean, that's phenomenal. And Jay and I talk a lot about, access to the game. And that's one of the challenges here. And it just, from somebody who's from, a place overseas in Europe where it was like that, you wouldn't pay more than, relatively speaking, I'm a little bit older, but relatively speaking, about 100 and something a year just to play. I mean, because there were volunteers willing to do it. There were facilities that weren't the best, but we weren't monetized. And so the accessibility side of it and what you're doing is just phenomenal. And I see it from an industry point of view, potentially being the disruptor, getting in there where there's a lot of competition that is pitched itself way up here. And you're coming in and just being more bang for the buck.
It's funny you say that because that's been really fun. We have some seriously talented kids. There's a huge talent pool here in Cincinnati that just can't get out to the suburbs. And through word of mouth and social media and guys talking to their friends, like our teams are really talented. Like a few of our teams, our 8 teams are really, really talented. And it's been fun to kind of walk out on the field and, take on some of these bigger clubs that have the word academy on the end of it and get a winning result. Like we did that in the fall. We didn't have any practice. We didn't know each other's name, and we still were able to get some results. Because of the talent has been so high. It's been really exciting to see, and I know the kids love it. It's kind of their chance to get back at what happens during the high school season, and they really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Jay.
Yeah, that's tremendous, and obviously we appreciate you taking the time to be here with us, and we love what you're doing. To go from where you were just a year ago to now, just real quick, what would be an ideal or a realistic goal for yourself here in the near future, in the next couple of years, that you see Inner Cincinnati Soccer Academy turning into?
That's an interesting question because you have all these dreams, but then you run up against, manpower and money.
Yeah.
And it is hard to find those places. So far, we've been lucky, but I don't know how much more we could grow without more help. And it has been a challenge to find coaches that would want to do this for free.
Yeah.
We are right now, like we're 2 weeks away and we got 2 teams available. We're still looking for coaches. Our kids are signing up, but it's hard to find that and hard to find space that we can train on, especially in an urban like Cincinnati. We don't have like Norwood where we're at. We just don't have fields. We're kind of landlocked. We're kind of like a little island inside of Cincinnati. We have the school field and we have another field, but other organizations, baseball, and then we all have to share this. So it is hard to find space. Right now, we're at 6 teams and 100 kids. We could maybe go a little higher, but it would take, I don't know, it would be hard to stretch our resources, because like uniforms last year was easy to find money for 40 kids.
Yeah.
100 kids is a little bit harder to find donations for. And if we go higher than that, or, we start introducing other things. But so far it's worked out, and it's been, in the high school we have more connections, so the teams are bigger.
Yeah.
I think our average size is maybe 20 kids on a roster, which is large.
But
it's all right. It's not too big.
Yeah, I mean, we can. I'd love to just chat with you a bit more offline when we get done here. But I just think it sounds like you're facing just the same challenge that a small business, growing business does when it tries to scale and be a big business, right? It's the same thing. It's how do you get the right personnel? How do you get them for the affordable rate, or in your case, volunteer base? It's just one of those. It's a similar challenge. So, I mean, I'm sure there's ways, but I can recognize the challenges you're facing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan, we're really glad to have you. Appreciate you taking the time. And, Ryan and I both encourage everyone out there to follow you guys on Twitter and on social media, regardless of where you are, on the entire planet. I think it's just a great story. And, it's why a lot of us do what we do every day, coaching, whether you're a teacher or not, but coaching, teaching, helping kids, continue to learn about soccer. And, I think just from where you've went in 1 year has been tremendous. And, even if you, just sustain what you have right now, it'd be just tremendous for your community and those kids that, you said just didn't have something like that before you came up with this club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been really neat to see. It's been fun to be a part of. I'm excited about this season. We got talent, and it's just so fun to see the kids come together, because they haven't had that experience. Watching them come back, some of the kids that played last year, and saying hi to the teammates they played with last year, and getting to know them, and those friendships and those relationships they're building, and then watching them on the field. It's been really neat to see, and that's kind of why you do it, but it is rewarding to see that in those moments when you see those kids come together and just playing and enjoying it.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Yep, keep up the good work. Appreciate you taking the time today with us, Dan. Thanks, man.
We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it, and good luck.
Visit our friends at Football Town for casual football wear. Continue to watch us. Hit us up on Twitter. Down there's our website now. We have a website with every episode available as well. We want to continue to build relationships with everyone out there. Thank you for all the support we've had so far. Keep it up. And until next time, straight from the training ground.